You want to know what really ticks me off? Is the fact that we put limits on who God is and what He can do. One of the biggest things that people go against God with is science. But in reality, science proves at least there's a creator. Science proves religion half the time. And one of the things that people like to disprove Christianity with is evolution. But in my mind, they can coexist. They can support each other. And you might ask how? Well, in Genesis 1, it's that 7 days where He creates the earth, the heaven, He creates light and separates it from darkness. He creates man, plant, water life, birds and air life. And I want to talk about why we limit it to one interpretation of day. Because in Daniel 9:27, it states a week. Whenever in reality, or in what a lot of people translate it as, they call it 7 years of tribulation. And so, if Daniel 9:27 can be 7 years considered a week, why can't, in the beginning, that be considered that or longer? And I'm not saying it's absolutely true. If it were absolutely true, He would have made us understand completely, fully what it is. And I don't think it's really that important to what the full message of the Bible is. Because the full message is to follow Jesus. Follow what He does. But it just kind of gets at me whenever people put limits on what God can do and what He is. And if you need evidence, per se, it kind of goes in order of how we think evolution went in Genesis 1. Because it starts off with, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, then He created light. And then it goes into plant life and fruits, and which would be like one of the first things to come after light. And then in verse 5, it goes about talking about how He created sea life and air life, which are the next two after that. And then in verse 6, He then creates man and woman. And later on in Genesis 2:7, He talks about how He created Adam from dust. And a lot of evolutionists talk about how we evolved from one cell organisms. And they wouldn't have that word in the Bible or back in those days for them to say. Just like how people take a lot of liberties whenever they're interpreting Revelations. So why can't the dust be from the one cell organism and they evolved up to man? Why can't the 7 days be potentially millions of years? I'm not saying it is, but could it be? If you think I'm wrong about the evolution thing, I'm definitely up to debate about it and talk with people about it. But don't put limits on who God is and what he can do. Because he's omnipotent. He can do anything.